Hey y'all, how you doing? Making this video in a slightly different style because I need someone else's point of view on this, and I prefer it to be somebody who's actually interested in this kind of stuff rather than just appealing to the masses. And so, essentially, this is a question on the validity of the Bible. So, if you're not interested in something like that, go find something else to do. But I don't know how to handle this thread that has appeared on my Facebook page anymore, and I would like someone else's opinion because I have no idea what direction to head in with this. So I'm not going to take the thread down for any reason. You can go check it out, and I don't mean any disrespect at all. I respect the two gentlemen that have commented on my thread very much so. I just don't know what else to do with this. So, let me take you through a quick walkthrough. This is how it started. I shared James White's post. And my comment is, when people tell me I don't believe in the Bible. So there's James White's link to his page, in which he writes, I love this clip from Voddie Baucham. And then Voddie, do not let people tell you put your sword away. Now you can click on this or go search it out on YouTube to watch it yourself and check it out. For the sake of time, I'm not going to click on it, make you watch it. It's not a long video. It's less than 5 minutes. It's worth watching for sure. And to help keep context, it would help you to watch it. Now, the first comment I have is from Stephen Yim. Because it is logically fallacious, or fallacious, I'm not sure the correct pronunciation. Basically, it's a logical fallacy. And whose rule? Historians rule on all old documents. Again, that question does not make any sense if you haven't seen the video. So go watch the video to try to understand that, if you would, if you're actually interested in this stuff. And then he put a link here. Why can't you use the Bible to prove the Bible? And I read it. And to summarize it, and again, I'll leave this link up here so you can go read it yourself. But to summarize that article, if you want to prove the Empire of Rome, you can't just use the fact that the Bible says that there was a Roman Empire. You need other documented sources. If you want to prove the city of Jerusalem, you need to use other sources to validate what the Bible says. You can't just use the Bible to prove the Bible. So my response, okay, how can I use natural methodology to prove or sustain belief in supernatural realities? How can we know anything about God if God does not reveal it to us? How can I explain color to a blind person? How can I convince a fish it is wet? I'm asking the same question over and over again. You can't use something natural to explain something supernatural. That's the whole point of the catechism. And then I go on to further explain myself. I can't appeal to any other authority about God or for God that God has not given me. He is the highest authority I can appeal to. I use my senses to validate my senses. I see the computer screen, and I know that I could see it because I can see it. If I use something other than the Bible to explain God, then it's not the God of the Bible that we're talking about. I hope that made sense, but apparently it did not to Stephen. You managed to write 122 words with no substance to this matter. No substance. As in, I didn't address anything from the article, and I didn't explain myself. I don't understand how there's no substance. So then he gives me a hypothetical. What would you do if a 40-year-old man came to prove magic and Harry Potter's real using a Harry Potter book? Edited. I don't know what part of that needed to be edited, but okay. And this is my response down here, but in the time it took me to type out my response to his first hypothetical, he's already had a conversation with himself. Wouldn't you ask him to use another source to validate his claim? Are you going to entertain him by using the same source that is in question? And his sword analogy is completely fallacious too. So, okay. This is Voddie that he's referring to. That's the him, his sword, Voddie's sword. that he's talking about there. But these are the hypothetical hymns who we're talking about a 4-year-old who can claim to do magic. So my response in the original, the claim from your 40-year-old is, I can do magic just as it's written in this book. And my response would be, okay, show me. Not, okay, show me this magic according to another source besides the one you cite. Which I thought was directly answering his first question, or his hypothetical question, I should say. His response, okay, then what if what he showed you was complete BS? And then he went on to have a conversation with himself. Wouldn't you want other evidences that Harry Potter exists, not just what is said in that book? Well, let me address that real quick. If someone comes to me with a book and says, this book tells me how to do magic, and it has historical accounts of other things, I say, show me this magic, and he shows me the magic, that is an evidence that the historical things are also true. Okay, so that's my response, but I never got to respond to that because other things happen. But then he goes on to, like other sources of pictures, ID, stories, and the location of Hogwarts. Another example, someone showed you a picture of alien Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Zeus, saying these are 100% factually real. Are you just going to take their word for it? Dude, they have pictures. So these one source of those mentioned must make it factual. I'm not sure what you were going with that. Seriously, think about that. I can also bring up the flat earth theory. Once you read that, would you also say, cool, use your wrong theory to prove more of it? Edited. Not sure what you had to edit in that. So he's gone off on a tangent. Basically, we started the conversation with the validity of the Bible. And the big problem with the Bible is not the historical account of Rome, not the historical account of Jerusalem, or any of those other things. It's the supernatural occurrences, right? I mean, that's the thing that bothers everybody, is the supernatural miracles and accounts. You know, the whole earth flood of Noah, resurrection from the dead, and all that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that people have a problem with in the Bible. Nobody ever complains about the Bible's account of the Roman governors at the time. So why are we talking about aliens and Bigfoot and Zeus? I tried to start this conversation off addressing the supernatural, and you've gone off on a tangent saying all this natural stuff can be explained by other sources. Why can't we use the same method to explain the supernatural? Because it's a completely different methodology you can't use. You know, if you want to prove the buoyancy of wood against steel, you have to use the same media. You know, if you want to throw wood in a puddle of water and then throw steel in a puddle of, you have to throw the steel in the same puddle of water to see if there's a difference in the buoyancy. You're not going to throw wood in water and watch it float, and then throw steel in Jello and watch it stay on top and say, oh, well, see, they're both equally buoyant. It's not the same method. We're not even talking about the same substance at that point. I've been talking about the supernatural. The closest you got was trying to refer to magic. Magic can be replicated. Magic can be tested. Magic can be observed. The Bible is a historical account. You can't replicate them. We can't observe them. The question of the validity of the Bible is not the scientific. You can't use a scientific method to test the Bible. It's a historical account. You have to question the validity of the eyewitness testimony. That was my whole point. So then we have Brent coming in to make some comments. Oh, this made me laugh out loud. What a bunch of BS. The Sword and Knight. Again, you need to watch a video to understand that. The fact that there are people who sit there and eat this up without questioning the logic is truly amazing, and not in a good way. So I go back with, so how do I explain color to a blind person? His response, you don't need to. So let me just stop right there. See, if I used his logic against him, my response should have been, then I don't need to explain anything about the Bible. You just need to know that it's true. Right? I mean, that's how that response, his response to me would have been reflected back, right? Or am I misplacing this? Because I'm trying to explain the unexplainable. I'm trying to see what method would you use to explain color to a blind person. Because when you can explain color to a blind person, I'll explain God to you. Okay, do you understand that's where that was going? So my response, well, now you know why I trust Voddie's epistemology more than yours. And his response was, trust in whomever you like, Joe. And then it says, he groupthink, and I think that's supposed to mean the groupthink, is very strong in religious communities, hence the laughter at the sword comment. You'll always find comfort and warmth in people whose concepts and ideas support your own. Back at you. Despite any irrational thoughts or illogical conclusions they draw. Now, you've made a claim. There's irrational thoughts, illogical conclusions. My question was, what's the irrational aspect of the example? And by that I mean the example in the video. Why is the conclusion illogical? Here's his answer. The sword is real, clarified, tangible. It has been proven empirically to bring death and destruction. Your book is just a book. Nothing is more. I think that's supposed to just say nothing more. Just because you say what happened in that book is real doesn't make it real. 100% agree with you. Absolutely. Totally spot on. Perfect response. Perfect response. But I tell you what, if I take the sword in my hands and press it through your body, it will go through your flesh and bone. We both know it will. You can sit there and tell me that God exists because your book says he does, but that doesn't mean he or anything exists. My response, that's exactly true. I agree with every bit of what you said. I would also add, God is supernatural. He, and I put in quotations, exists outside of time and space. Therefore, we cannot, parentheses clarify, not able, no ability. We cannot know anything about God unless he reveals it to us. It is impossible to use natural methodology to prove supernatural realities. How do you explain color to a blind person? How do you explain to a fish that it is wet? But now I'm repeating myself. You say God is supernatural. That is your belief. It ends there. I wish these two gentlemen would look up the word epistemology, the theory of knowledge. How can you know something? You gentlemen would not be very good lawyers in a courtroom, and I would feel really very bad about their defendants if they were lawyers, because it's just dodging the issue left and right. I mean, twice. This is the second time he's basically said, I don't care, don't matter. I didn't let him go at that. I'm going to cover that in the rest of this comment section, because the rest of this comment section, the train goes way off the rails for both of them. So let's just get into the rest of the comment section. Well, if God is not supernatural, this is my response to the last thing he said, then he wouldn't be God, right? What do you mean by it ends there? What is the it you refer to? I'm really trying to understand your point of view. Do you honestly believe I've accepted fiction as fact due to my bias, falling into groupthink, without questioning the logic, scrutinizing the text, or doing any real research? Give me a reason not to trust this book. Now, he replied to that first, but what you see in this comment section is Stephen having another conversation with himself. And his response, Brent's response, is, I'm not going to sit here and give you a religious history lesson on why people believe in a higher being. Yes, I do believe you accepted fiction as fact. Have you done your due diligence? I can't speak to that. Did you catch that? Let me point it out again. I do believe you have accepted fiction as fact. Have you done your due diligence? I can't speak to that. You did speak to that, in fact, when you said, I do believe you have accepted fiction as fact. So clearly, Brent, you don't think I've done my due diligence. Right? I haven't scrutinized the text. All that stuff I mentioned before, that's where you got that word or that phrase, accepted fiction as fact. I started that in my comment. Do you believe I've accepted fiction as fact due to my bias, falling into groupthink, without questioning the logic, scrutinizing the text, or doing any real research? That's what you're referring to by due diligence. Have you done your due diligence? I can't speak to that, but I do believe you accepted fiction as fact. That is called a self-contradiction. That is a married bachelor. Sorry, like, what do I even respond to that with? Like, what do I respond to that with? I mean, when somebody's willing to contradict themselves within 2 sentences of one comment, I really don't even know what to do with that. I mean, Stephen goes off on his own tangents, speaking about whatever he wants to speak about, never getting back on track to the original point, and that's the way he is, and I've kind of accepted that. But Brent, what am I supposed to say to that? What am I supposed to say to that? Like, we haven't even addressed one thing about what the Bible actually is. A collection of historical documents, of eyewitness accounts, of supernatural events that were filled as according to specific prophecy. We haven't even touched any of that. All you guys have given me is hyperbole theory on what may or may not be true. Well, this may or may not be true, and that may or may not be true, and this other thing may or may not be true. At what point are we actually going to get to the substance of what the Bible is? Now, this is the more irritating part. Like, Stephen, do you think I don't read your comments because I don't respond to all of them? Do you see what you do? Do other people do this to your comment section, so you feel the need to do it to other people's comment section? That's what I really want to know, because this is ridiculous. So I asked Brent, deductively, if God is not supernatural, he would not be God, right? I mean, that's a logical deduction conclusion, which is supposedly the way Brent likes to think, but he didn't really even address that. You say it, doesn't make it true. Okay, sure. I'm not the one who started saying that, but whatever. Wisdom wasn't born with me, and it's not going to die with me, but you can think that if you want. So the sword analogy was way too effing much, thanks. You can't use the Bible to prove it. Oh, wow, that looks familiar. That's like the link right up here. Yep, the exact same link. Thanks, Stephen. If he exists outside of time and space. Oh, okay, so you read my comment, and now you're responding to my other comment right after you put the exact same link in that you had above. Cool. That means he lives in another dimension, proving a multiverse under this notion. Let me just stop right there. You want to talk about logical fallacies? There's something called a straw man. You know what that is? That's when you create an argument so you can argue against that, claiming the other person said it when they never actually did. You've created a straw man to argue against that. Nobody mentioned multiverse but you. And now you're going to go on and argue about the multiverse theory. That's irritating. That's a straw man. And when you go on a conversation about yourself with yourself over the stuff you brought up yourself, I don't know how to respond. I'm pretty sure for 100%, without a doubt, that scientists today can explain this better than the people living 2,000 years ago or more from the Old Testament describing it as heaven. Interesting theory. So can you explain to a blind man how we are his only creation if there's a multiverse? You're the one who brought it up, not me, so I don't need to explain it. If there is a multiverse, this does not mean only this universe and his. There's possibilities of infinite number of universes. So the book says We are his only creation. And with the vastness of this universe, aliens makes more sense than God existing. Makes more sense to you, but not to me. God only exists because our feeble minds needed an explanation of the unknown over 2 millennia ago. You could say religion is actually an old, ancient form of science. No, you really can't. You can include mythology to back my claim. Prometheus gave us fire when we now know how fire is made. And God is only supernatural because people labeled God as such. Remember, God came and went from people to people, but only in the Middle East. Why didn't he show himself to the Vikings, Hindus, Buddhists, and etc. to further validate his existence? Because he made his existence known in the Arab nations to help further dominate men over women. That's what you get out of the Bible. And this is an edited comment. I'd like to point that out. So like you really, like you said something and then you went back to really clarify what you meant. And that's what you really meant. That's the best that you came out of that with. You've read the Bible, supposedly, and to you it speaks to Arabs having men dominate over women. That's what you get out of the Adam and Eve and the flood, the Exodus out of Egypt. All that's also that Arab men could be dominant over women. Really. If you say the Bible isn't sexist, then you might be blasphemous to your own religion. Or maybe I read the whole thing. Besides, Joe utterly believes that Allah doesn't fall under the same Abrahamic God as his. Historically, this is factual, even accordance to his Bible, yet we have a doubter. And this was edited also. So that's exactly what you wanted to say. Besides, Joe utterly believes that Allah doesn't fall under the same Abrahamic God as his. So we have my God and Allah, who are like brothers underneath this Abrahamic God. I mean, that's what you said. I know that's not what you meant. You mean to say that Allah and the God of the Bible are the same God, according to Abraham. Of course, the only account of Abraham claiming this is from Muhammad. So really only Muhammad ever said that. Like, what do I do with this, guys? And then we have ourselves a meme picture, and I'll make that big so you can see it. Every single action of God, including the prophet chosen in the Quran, Torah, and Bible, occurred within the red circle. Seems legit. Yep. Worldwide flood within the red circle. 3 different continents, 3 different languages, 40 different authors writing 66 volumes over 1,500 years apart. Most of them didn't know each other. All comes to a cohesive unit that tells one redemptive story. But we're not going to address any of that because of your supposedlys and possiblys and what ifs. Like, do I just give up on this? Because I don't know. Like, I want to get back to what the conversation was supposed to be about. Why am I not allowed to use the Bible to explain God? Because he didn't reveal himself to Vikings? Because he lives in a multiverse that has aliens? Stephen? Because I'm the one who said God is supernatural? Brent? Because we don't have empirical evidence of God. It's so irritating because we're all talking about the Bible. And we're not going to talk about, are the people who wrote down what they wrote down trustworthy? We're not going to talk about, are the things that were written down falsifiable. We're not going to talk about the archaeological digs that were done specifically because of biblical events recorded in the Bible, I should say, events that were recorded in the Bible, and what they have confirmed, affirmed, or disproven, contradicted. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff. We're just gonna pick on supposedlies and what ifs, hyperboles, tangents, and your own personal reasoning skills. Not one thing about what is in the Bible is being talked about. We're not questioning the validity of the Bible based on what's in the Bible. We're questioning the validity of the Bible based on my ability to reason what's in the Bible that I haven't read. Like, that's what I'm getting out of both of these guys. Neither one of them have actually read or studied the Bible, but they know that what's in there is definitely false. If anybody wants to have a serious discussion about the validity of the Bible, here's something you need to understand. Here's the one important thing you really need to know. Like, here's the launching pad for the discussion. Papyrus. Okay? You need to understand everything about papyrus and why that's important. You can start there, and then we could talk about the stuff in the Bible. But if you don't do at least a little bit of homework to figure that out, there's no even real point in discussing what you think of the Bible.